The church bells tolled through the darkness, plunging London into a long, haunting slumber. Each heavy echoing chime reverberated through the oppressive night air, cutting through the stained glass glow of candlelit windows at St. Paul's Cathedral. Tonight was not a coronation nor a lavish royal ball. Tonight was a night of grief, of parting, of silent tears falling unnoticed. Amidst the sea of mourners dressed in solemn black, William and Kate stood silently by Queen Elizabeth II's casket. Pure white flowers blanketed it, and candlelight illuminated their tense, tear-streaked faces. No one truly understood what made them so emotional, but the world witnessed. William clutched Kate's hand, his eyes red-rimmed, and Kate whispered something into her husband's ear, words no one else could hear. Then in that reverent hush, Princess Charlotte, the 7-year-old, stepped forward. Her small footsteps echoed across the marble floor, her polished black shoes reflecting the candlelight. She paused, bowed her head, and performed a flawless, solemn curtsy before her great-grandmother's casket. No hesitation, no trembling, only composure, grace, and something far beyond her years. The entire cathedral fell silent. William and Kate watched their daughter, tears welling up once more. Their grief was not just for the monarchy's loss, but for something deeper, something secret, something only they and Charlotte truly understood. The public whispered, "That girl is extraordinary, a princess born to be queen." But inside William's mind, a storm of emotion surged. He remembered Diana, his mother, walking through royal ceremonies with a graceful smile, yet eyes shadowed by deep sadness. In Charlotte, he saw echoes of his mother, not only in appearance, but in the determination, resilience, and unshakable spirit. Kate's hand tightened around William's. Her gaze held quiet fear. Can we protect her? Can we keep her safe from the dark secrets of the past? But she said nothing. Tonight, words were meaningless. Outside, the press snapped every moment, William and Kate weeping Charlotte's curtsy. They had no idea that this moment marked the beginning of a storm that would shake the monarchy to its core, a secret long buried tied to Diana's legacy to power and to Charlotte's future. When the ceremony concluded, Charlotte returned to her parents. William knelt, whispered in her ear, "You did wonderfully, my Minette." Charlotte looked up, her eyes sparkling under the candlelight. She whispered back, just loud enough for William and Kate to hear, "Mama told me to be strong." William froze. He tightened his hold on his daughter, tears slipping down his cheeks. The Mama Charlotte spoke of wasn't Kate. It was Diana, long gone, yet somehow still present in every moment of their family's life. Back at Kensington Palace, the heavy silence followed them like a shadow. The halls, once filled with laughter and footsteps, now felt hollow. William and Kate sat in their private sitting room, still dressed in black. Between them sat Charlotte, her hands folded neatly in her lap, her expression unreadable. George and Louis were asleep upstairs, too young to fully grasp the weight of what had happened. But Charlotte understood. Her sharp gaze met her father's, then her mother's. She spoke softly. "Why did Mama Diana tell me to be strong? What did she mean?" William exchanged a glance with Kate. They hadn't expected this question, so soon hadn't prepared themselves to reveal truths they had long kept hidden from their children. But Charlotte's calm, searching eyes demanded honesty. Kate knelt before her daughter, smoothing a strand of dark hair from her forehead. "Your Mama Diana was a very special woman," she began gently. "She loved your daddy, and she loved you, even though she left before you were born." Charlotte's lips trembled. "But how can she love me if she's not here?" William's voice, low and rough with emotion, filled the space. "Because love doesn't stop, Charlotte. It's like a thread that connects us no matter how far apart we are. Your Mama Diana's love is part of you, part of what makes you brave and kind and strong." Charlotte's small shoulders squared. She seemed to grow taller, older, more composed. "Then I'll be strong." For her, tears slipped down Kate's cheeks, but she smiled. "That's my girl." Meanwhile, at Buckingham Palace, Camilla sat alone in her private chambers, staring out at the dark gardens beyond. The news of Charlotte's perfect curtsy and the media's adoration for the young princess stung like 1,000 tiny needles. Her carefully constructed image as queen consort seemed suddenly fragile, overshadowed by a 7-year-old's quiet grace. She poured herself a glass of wine, her thoughts bitter. "That girl's a symbol," she murmured to herself, "a symbol of everything Diana represented and everything I've fought to erase." But deep down, Camilla felt something far more dangerous than jealousy, fear. Fear that Diana's shadow, long thought buried, was rising again through her granddaughter, and with it the potential to upend everything. At Buckingham Palace, hushed conversations echoed through the marble corridors, careful glances exchanged between footmen and courtiers. The air felt charged with a tension thicker than the winter fog rolling over London. Camilla sat at a long oak table surrounded by her closest advisors. Her lips were pressed into a thin line, her fingers tapping restlessly against the polished wood. "We cannot let this continue," she said sharply. "The public adores Charlotte. They see Diana in her. If we don't act now, she will overshadow everything we've built." One advisor hesitated before speaking. "Your Majesty, with respect, Charlotte is just a child. It's her connection to Diana that draws attention, but with careful strategy, we can manage this." Camilla's eyes flashed. A child. She's more than that. She's a symbol, a living thread connecting the past to the present. If we let this narrative take root, it will undermine everything I've worked for, everything Charles and I have worked for. At Kensington Palace, William and Kate sat in their sunlit morning room, sipping tea while the children played in the garden. George and Louis chased each other across the lawn, but Charlotte sat quietly under the magnolia tree, her nose buried in a book. "She's different," Kate murmured softly, her eyes watching their daughter. "She sees things, understands things the others don't." William nodded. "I see it too. It's not just her connection to Diana, it's something inside her, something unshakable." Kate set down her cup and turned to face him. "We need to protect her. Camilla won't just sit back and let her rise." William's jaw tightened. "Then we'll protect her. We'll teach her how to navigate this world, how to hold her head high no matter what." Meanwhile, in private clubs and whispered corridors across London, old allies of the royal family gathered to speculate. "Have you seen the papers?" one aristocrat murmured. "Charlotte, she's becoming a figurehead, just like Diana." Another nodded gravely. "The monarchy cannot survive another Diana. Not now. Not with Camilla at the helm." But amidst the whispers and shifting alliances, Charlotte remained blissfully unaware. She sat beneath the magnolia tree, her book forgotten, as she gazed up at the sky. The wind stirred her hair, and in that quiet moment she whispered to herself, "I'll make you proud, Mama." The tremor began, not with a scandal, but with a photograph. A candid image of Charlotte at a charity event holding hands with a sick child. Her expression, radiant and compassionate, went viral overnight. Headlines around the world praised her as the new face of the monarchy, the symbol of hope and authenticity. Social media overflowed with adoration, hashtags like Chakram Princess of the People and Little Diana trending globally. At Buckingham Palace, Camilla sat rigid in her armchair, her face pale as she scrolled through the online praise. Her aides stood silent, unsure how to respond. "She's only 7, Camilla muttered bitterly, "and she's already eclipsing everything we've done." Her trusted aide cleared his throat cautiously. "Perhaps, Your Majesty, we could lean into the narrative, embrace her popularity while gently steering it in a direction favorable to the crown." Camilla's laugh was sharp and hollow. "You think I'm going to let Diana's ghost dictate the future of this family? No, we need to control the story before it controls us." At Kensington Palace, William and Kate were aware of the storm gathering around their daughter. They read every article, monitored every social media trend, and watched with a mix of pride and apprehension. "She's becoming a phenomenon," Kate murmured one evening as she stood by the window, looking out over the gardens. "But it's dangerous. The higher she rises in public affection, the more vulnerable she becomes." William joined her, his voice low but resolute. "Then we'll stand by her. We'll teach her to be strong, to know who she is before anyone else tries to define her." Meanwhile, in private meetings among palace insiders, plans were being quietly set into motion. Leaked stories, strategic photo releases, subtle rumors, all designed to redirect public attention and dilute the growing Charlotte effect. But what they hadn't anticipated was the depth of the public's affection, not just for Charlotte, but for what she represented: a bridge between the past and a hopeful future untainted by scandal or ambition. As the first tremor of unrest rippled through the royal family's carefully controlled image, Charlotte remained unaware. She played in the garden with her brothers, her laughter rising like a melody above the tension, unaware that her very existence was reshaping the future of the monarchy. Camilla sat in her private study, the heavy velvet curtains drawn to block out the morning sun. Before her lay a meticulously prepared file containing photographs, carefully worded notes, and a list of trusted journalists. Her lips curled into a cold smile as she traced her finger along the spine of the file. "She wants to play queen," she murmured to herself. "Then let's see how well she handles the weight of the crown." Her private secretary entered, bowing slightly. "Your Majesty, shall we proceed with the release?" Camilla nodded curtly. "Yes, but make it look organic. Leaks, rumors, subtle hints. I want the public to start asking questions about Catherine's past, her family, her intentions, her fitness for the role. Let them question if she's truly worthy of being queen." The secretary hesitated, and Camilla's expression hardened. "No child is untouchable, but we'll start with Catherine. Once the cracks appear, the rest will follow." Across the city, William and Kate were attending a charity event for children's health. Catherine's poise and grace were evident as she interacted with families, offering words of comfort and support. Charlotte stood nearby, quietly observing her mother, mimicking her gestures and soft-spoken words. As cameras captured the touching moments, a sharp contrast was unfolding behind the scenes. News outlets received anonymous tips about supposed controversies in Catherine's background. Online forums buzzed with speculation. Rumors unsubstantiated but persistent began to circulate. At Kensington Palace, William and Catherine sat side by side, their phones flashing with alerts. "They've started," Kate said softly, her voice tinged with both sadness and resolve. William's jaw tightened. "We'll fight this, not with counterattacks, but with integrity, with the truth." Charlotte, seated on the rug nearby, looked up from her coloring book. "Why are people being mean to Mama?" she asked, her voice small but steady. Kate reached out, gently stroking her daughter's hair. "Sometimes when people are afraid of what someone represents, they try to make them look small. But we know the truth, and we'll stand together." That evening, the royal family's website posted a quiet but firm statement from Catherine. "I remain committed to serving my family, my country, and the causes close to my heart. No rumor or whisper will distract me from that mission." It was a simple message, but it struck a chord. The public, weary of palace intrigue, responded with overwhelming support. Social media flooded with hashtags like "Nyeri Stand with Catherine" and "Year Charlotte Rising." And though Camilla's plan had been set in motion, it was clear that the game she had initiated would not be easily won. While the headlines continued to swirl with rumors and speculation, something far quieter and far more powerful was unfolding. Across Britain, public sentiment began shifting. Conversations in cafes, community centers, and online spaces turned from scandal to sincerity. People weren't just captivated by the drama. They were moved by Catherine's unwavering composure, by Charlotte's innocent yet poised presence, and by William's steadfast loyalty to his family. At Kensington Palace, Catherine sat at her desk reviewing correspondence from charities and public figures expressing support. "It's not about me," she said quietly to William. "It's about trust. People want to believe that the royal family can stand for something good, something real." William nodded, his hand resting lightly on hers. "And they see that in you and in Charlotte. You're giving them hope even when everything around us seems chaotic." Meanwhile, Camilla's camp scrambled to regain control. The rumors they had seeded failed to take root. Instead, they were met with skepticism and outright backlash. Trusted journalists, tired of palace manipulations, refused to run unsubstantiated stories. Even allies within the aristocracy began to distance themselves. In quiet meetings behind closed doors, murmurs of a quiet revolution echoed. "The old ways aren't working anymore. We can't suppress authenticity with gossip and spin. Catherine and Charlotte are the future, and it's time we accept that." Charlotte, unaware of the political storm swirling around her, continued to embody the quiet strength that had so captivated the public. At a school assembly, she stood confidently to deliver a short speech about kindness and community, her voice clear and her message heartfelt. Parents and teachers alike were moved, with some whispering, "She's her mother's daughter and Diana's granddaughter." That evening, as the family gathered in the Kensington Palace garden, Charlotte climbed onto William's lap and whispered, "Mama would be proud of us, wouldn't she?" William's throat tightened as he wrapped his arms around her. She'd be more than proud, sweetheart. She'd be inspired. The quiet revolution was no longer just a shift in public opinion, it was a profound cultural shift, a reawakening of the monarchy's potential to represent something beyond power and pretense. And it had begun not with grand gestures, but with a child's innocent curtsy and a mother's quiet dignity. The final straw came on an overcast morning when a leaked audio recording of a private conversation between Camilla and a close confidant surfaced online. In the recording, Camilla's voice was sharp, dismissive, and laced with contempt as she discussed Catherine's growing popularity and Charlotte's dangerous potential to overshadow the current royal narrative. The public reaction was swift and scathing. Outrage poured from every corner of the country. Social media erupted with hashtags like "Eat Our Dignity Over Deception," "Uninos Charlotte the Future," and "Catherine True Queen." News outlets ran damning headlines Camilla's private comments exposed, "A Queen Consort's True Colors, Public Backs Catherine and Charlotte." At Buckingham Palace, Camilla's team went into damage control mode, but the damage was already done. Even Charles, usually measured and composed, was shaken by the revelation. In a tense private meeting, he confronted Camilla. "You've gone too far," he said quietly, his voice heavy with disappointment. "This isn't just about preserving the monarchy, it's about preserving its soul." Camilla, visibly rattled, attempted to defend herself. "I was trying to protect what we've built. To protect you." Charles shook his head. "You were protecting yourself, and now we're at a tipping point. If we don't act with humility and honesty, we risk losing everything." At Kensington Palace, William and Catherine prepared for a public statement. They knew this was their moment not to gloat, but to offer a path forward. Together they stood before the cameras, Catherine's voice calm and resolute. "We believe that leadership is about service, compassion, and truth," she said. "In a world where integrity often feels lost, we choose to stand with those who value honesty over power, love over ambition, and kindness over cruelty." The public response was overwhelming. Crowds gathered outside Kensington Palace waving banners of support. Community leaders and public figures issued statements praising Catherine and William's courage and grace. Even within the palace walls, a shift was palpable. Former allies of Camilla quietly distanced themselves, recognizing the changing tide. Whispers of a potential abdication, or at least a significant restructuring of royal responsibilities, echoed in the corridors. And in the center of it all stood Charlotte, unaware of the full gravity of the moment, but radiant with a quiet confidence that spoke louder than any scandal. Her presence reminded everyone that the future didn't belong to those clinging to the past, but to those willing to embrace change with grace and courage. Buckingham Palace, usually the symbol of unyielding stability, now felt like it was standing on shifting sand. The leaked recording had done what years of quiet rumors and subtle scandals could not. It pierced the carefully maintained veneer of control, exposing the vulnerability within. Camilla sat in her private chamber, her usual composure replaced by a raw, unfiltered fear. The public's outrage was not subsiding. Instead, it was intensifying, fueled by voices from every corner, parliamentary members, media icons, and ordinary citizens demanding accountability. In a rare private meeting, Charles sat across from her. His face was pale, but his tone firm. "This cannot continue," he said. "We have to acknowledge the truth. We have to repair the damage." Camilla's hands trembled. "Are you saying I should step down?" Charles hesitated, then nodded solemnly. "It might be the only way. For the monarchy, for the family, for our future." Meanwhile, at Kensington Palace, William and Catherine were deliberate in their approach. They refused to engage in public attacks, instead choosing to focus on their work, visiting hospitals, supporting charities, and meeting with community leaders. Their actions spoke louder than any statement could. In the public eye, Catherine's dignity became a beacon of hope. Charlotte's innocence and natural grace inspired admiration across generations. Social media flooded with images of the young princess, her quiet strength reminding everyone of Diana's enduring spirit. A special televised interview was arranged where Catherine and William sat side by side, their hands intertwined, as they spoke candidly about the importance of family service and resilience. "We are not perfect," Catherine said softly, "but we believe in learning from the past, in embracing truth, and in standing for those who cannot stand alone." Charlotte appeared briefly during the interview, sitting on her mother's lap and waving shyly at the camera. It was a moment that melted hearts across the nation, reinforcing the idea that the future belonged to honesty and love, not ambition and manipulation. As the interview concluded, a statement from Buckingham Palace was released. After careful consideration and with deep regret, Queen Consort Camilla has decided to withdraw from royal duties indefinitely. The royal family remains committed to upholding the values of integrity, compassion, and service. That night, London's skyline sparkled as if celebrating a quiet, peaceful revolution. At Kensington Palace, Catherine tucked Charlotte into bed, whispering, "You're the bravest girl I know." Charlotte smiled sleepily. "Because Mama Diana taught me," she murmured. And as Catherine kissed her daughter's forehead, she realized that the reckoning wasn't just about righting past wrongs. It was about paving the way for a future where truth and love reigned supreme. A crisp autumn wind swept through London as Camilla's official farewell approached. The air was heavy with a strange mixture of relief, curiosity, and lingering sadness. For all her flaws and missteps, she had been part of the monarchy's complex story. But now that chapter was closing. A quiet ceremony was held at St. George's Chapel, far from the grandeur of public spectacles. Only a handful of senior royals, close friends, and palace staff were present. Camilla stood in the center of the ancient chapel, her head bowed, her hands trembling slightly as she listened to the Archbishop's solemn words. Outside, the press gathered but were kept at bay. William and Catherine were not present, choosing instead to focus on their charity work and family time. Yet even in their absence, their presence was felt an unspoken reminder that the future had already moved on. Inside Kensington Palace, Catherine sat with Charlotte, helping her with schoolwork. William entered, his voice soft. Camilla stepped down. Charlotte looked up from her workbook, her brow furrowed. "Does that mean we're safe now?" Kate exchanged a glance with William, her voice gentle but firm. "We've always been safe, darling, because we have each other." In the days following the farewell, public opinion solidified. Camilla's departure was seen not as a fall, but as an inevitable consequence of choices made and truths uncovered. Media outlets ran reflective stories, not salacious headlines, but pieces pondering what the monarchy might look like in a new era. Meanwhile, Catherine's continued grace and quiet determination earned her admiration, not just from the British public, but from people around the world. Her appearances were marked by authenticity and a genuine connection to those she met. And Charlotte, still young, but already wise beyond her years, carried herself with a poise that spoke volumes about the values instilled in her. As autumn leaves drifted across the gardens of Kensington Palace, Catherine stood by the window watching Charlotte and her brothers play outside. William approached, wrapping his arms around her shoulders. "We did it," he said quietly. "We stood for what mattered." Catherine leaned into him, her voice soft but resolute. "And now we can start to build something new." Spring dawned over London, washing the city in soft gold and pink hues. The air was filled with the fragrance of blooming flowers, and a sense of renewal hung in the air, not just in nature, but in the very heart of the monarchy. At Kensington Palace, William and Catherine prepared for their first official engagement since Camilla's departure. This wasn't a show of triumph, but a quiet statement of purpose. They arrived at a community garden, hand in hand, their children, including Charlotte, walking alongside them. Catherine bent to plant a rose bush with local volunteers, her laughter ringing through the crisp morning air. William knelt to help George and Louis dig small holes for the seedlings, and Charlotte, with her hair tied back and hands dirtied from the soil, offered words of encouragement to younger children working alongside her. Media coverage was inevitable, but the tone had changed. Instead of analyzing every gesture or speculating on ulterior motives, headlines focused on their sincerity and service. The royal family redefined heartfelt, humble, and honest, one front page declared. In a rare interview later that week, Catherine spoke simply, "We don't do this because it's expected. We do it because it matters. Because serving the people isn't a duty, it's a privilege." The interview resonated deeply. For the first time in a long while, the monarchy felt human, approachable, connected, and real. At Buckingham Palace, Charles, now reigning alone, observed quietly. His public appearances were measured, his statements reflective. He spoke of learning from mistakes, of embracing change, and of preparing the monarchy for a new era. In one of his rare moments of candor, he was overheard saying to an aide, Diana's spirit has returned not through scandal or tragedy, but through hope. And at Kensington Palace, Catherine tucks Charlotte into bed, brushing a stray curl from her daughter's forehead. "Tomorrow's another day," she whispered. "Another chance to make a difference." Charlotte smiled sleepily, her voice soft but determined. "I'll be ready, Mama. Just like you." As Catherine kissed her daughter goodnight, she realized that this wasn't just a new chapter for the monarchy. It was the beginning of a legacy built on truth, compassion, and quiet strength. And this time, nothing, not whispers, not scandals, not even the weight of tradition could overshadow the light of this new dawn.